Hello folks, welcome to the Edupedia world and I am Abhinay Gupta. So today again we'll continue with the topic, the SARFAESI Act 2002, which is the Securitization and Reconstruction of Financial Assets and Enforcement of Security Interest Act 2002. So let's have a quick recap. We'll take just 2 minutes for that. We had seen the 4 basic elements: obligor, originator, securitization, reconstruction company, and QIB. We have understood the flowchart that is in the previous lecture. You can refer it back. We have understood the various definitions because we know it is directly being asked in your examination. You're asked to explain the same. We have broken it down into various components and done. What is non-performing asset, what is financial asset, what is securitization, reconstruction, obligor, originator, security receipt, and scheme, and various other things, right? Then we have seen section 3, which talks about the registration, the issue of the certificate of registration to the SR company. Then we have talked about section 4, which talked about the cancellation of the certificate of registration and various conditions that could lead to it. Then in section 5, we have covered the acquisition of right and interest in the financial asset. In section 6, we talked about the bank giving a notice to the obligor, to any other concerned person and the registering authority, informing them that the asset has been taken over by the securitization company, right? In section 7, we talked about the procedure again, that the bank gives the financial asset to the SR company, they give the security issue receipt to the QIB, QIB gives them the fund, and they maintain it in a separate bank account. And if they are not able to reconstruct their asset, then more than 75% of the QIBs can take a decision which is binding on the securitization company. Right? Section 8 told us that the security receipt need not be registered. Section 9 gave us various measures of how to reconstruct the asset. Right? And in section 10, we saw the various other functions what the securitization and reconstruction company does. In section 13, we talked, was the major section. There we learned about what actually happens in reconstruction. How does the reconstruction take place? Right? What are the provisions related to it into the Act? That was section 13, enforcement of security interest. Right? So that is where we have ended the previous lecture. Today we'll commence ahead with, we'll continue with section 15, which is the manner and effect of takeover of the management. We talked about this is one other measure of taking over of recovering or reconstructing the asset, the takeover of the management. So in section 15, we'll see the manner and the effect of the takeover of the management. So in the previous sections that we have covered, basically section 9 and section 13. In section 9 clause A, we talked about the takeover of the management of the company, and also when we talked about the enforcement of security interest in section 13, it's subsection 4 clause B also talked about the takeover of the management, right? So whatever way, either you follow section 9 or you follow section 13, ultimately you're taking over the management of the company. Right? So whenever you take over the management of the company, you give a notice in the newspaper, right? In the local newspaper, and which is in a local language, a vernacular language, as well as one English newspaper, right? And as per your notice in the newspaper, you can appoint as many persons as you think fit to be the director or the administrator of the company, right? So if it is a company under the Companies Act 2013, you may appoint the director, and in any other case, you have an administrator for the business. So you can appoint the administrator if it is not a company, right? So what are the consequences of your publication, basically? So as per the consequence of the publication, the first thing is that the director or the administrator, as the case may be, in case of the company or a normal business, they will vacate their office. So whosoever it is, a director of the company or any other person who has the power of superintendence, direction or control of the business, immediately before the notice will be deemed to have vacated their office. And also if there is any contract of management between the borrower and the director or the superintendent or the administrator, whosoever it is, that contract will be deemed to be cancelled. Right? So whatever contract of management that the company has with the director or administrator will be deemed to be cancelled as soon as the notice is published in the newspaper, right? And now, when the director or administrator has deemed to be vacated the office, deemed to have been vacating the office, and the contracts have deemed to be cancelled, and we know that the new director or the new administrator has been appointed as per the notice, as per the publication in the newspaper, right? So these director or administrator who has been appointed will take any such step which is necessary to take the custody of the properties and the assets, and also the control over the business, right? They can take any such step for doing the same. And as per the law also, it will be deemed, all the properties and all the powers will deem to have been vested on the new director of the company, right? And as the case may be, the new administrator. And the new director or administrator, whosoever it is, shall exercise all powers alone, right? They will have all the powers, whether it is derived from the memorandum or article of association of the company, or of the borrower, right? Or from any other source whatsoever. Right, so all the powers will be exercised by the director and the administrator, or the administrator alone. So this is the basic consequence of the publication. And apart from this, there will also be certain restrictions, right? Like for example, restrictions on the shareholders. So the shareholders of the company, now we have seen that the directors are removed, the administrators are removed, the superintendents or whosoever managing the business have been removed. But there may be shareholders if it's a company. So the shareholders will continue to be the shareholders of the company, but their powers will be curtailed, right? So the shareholders will not be allowed to appoint any further directors, because directors have been appointed by the secured creditor now, right? And those directors will solely have all the power, like to conduct all the business of the company. The shareholders cannot interrupt their power, interrupt their job by appointing any other director. Right? And they cannot also pass any resolution. Whatever the director wants, we have already discussed, they will do. They solely have all the power. The shareholders cannot obstruct or abstrain their power by passing a resolution. May it be ordinary or special, may it be in any meeting. Right? And further, this is a nominal restriction on the shareholders. But the effect of this section, the effect of this act extends to the court also, as we have seen in the very beginning of section 13, that court cannot intervene into the procedures of the securitization and reconstruction company. So over here also, because this is a procedure for restructuring of the debt, so over here even the court will not be allowed to wind up the company, because if it goes for winding up, the debts will be paid as per the priority. Like the workmen will be getting it in first, they'll be given the priority, then the secured creditors and stuff. So we'll have to stand in line. The securitization and reconstruction company will again have to follow that trail, right, of realization of payment of the dues. But in this case, when they have taken the charge, no court can intervene and say that we'll be winding up the company. So the securitization and reconstruction company will have the first charge on the asset. They will sell the asset and get the money back. And now if you want to wind up, you can wind up and pay away the other creditors and employees and stuff, right? And this power will be exercised so far as the debt is not recovered. And once they get their debt recovered, their debt is realized, then they restore the management and leave away and go peacefully. And now the company can again be carried forward by the borrower as it was being carried forward before the interruption by the securitization and reconstruction company. Now we have seen that the directors are deemed to vacate the office, right, when the publication is launched in the newspaper or when the notice is published in the newspaper. But do the directors or will the director get any compensation for the same? Right? So that will be dealt by section 16. So section 16, what we'll see is that the directors will not get any compensation. No compensation to director for loss of office. So anybody, may it be the managing director, any other director, a manager or person in charge, right? They will not be entitled to any compensation for loss of office. But before they're leaving the office, if there is any other due from the company that the director is liable to get, there is any other due or any other receivable by the director, that they can at any point of time recover. They're entitled to recover the same from the company. We are restraining the compensation for loss of office, right? But we are not restraining them from taking back the due, right? They are not restrained from recovering whatever they're actually entitled to. So that is all about section 15 and section 16. We'll wind up the lecture over here today, and we'll continue with a few more lectures that are remaining in our next class, in our next lecture, few more topics, right? So until then, this is Abhinay Gupta signing off. Thank you. Bye-bye.